Hi guys, it's Wayne from Wayne Goodman Photography and Wayne's Got Gas. I've got all my cameras out here and I thought I'd just do a quick comparison between the A7R II and some other models out there that are sort of similar in some ways and totally different in other respects. So A7R II in the middle, we've got the RX1R here, we've got this Samsung NX3000, we've got the Ricoh GR, and that's the version 3 of the GR digital. So it's not the film one, which looks pretty much identical, but it's the version 3. So it doesn't have an APS-C size sensor, which this does, the X100T does, and the Canon 7D does. It has a smaller sensor, which is more like a point and shoot size sensor, but honestly the images from that are so good. They're such you've got so much dynamic range, and it's just a really great little camera. If you ever get the chance to pick one up, they're not hugely expensive now. I think most people would be actually quite surprised as to how good it is. It's got an f-stop, lowest f-stop aperture of about 1.9 or something, so it's a great little camera. On this side here we've got the RX1R, we've got the Fuji X100T, which is the latest X100 camera that came out I think about November last year, and that's another fantastic camera. We've got the Canon 7D and the Canon 6D. So why do I have all these cameras? Well, I don't know, I like them all, and sometimes it's nice to sort of take a different camera out and try different things, but the idea with the A7R II was actually that hopefully I'll narrow some cameras down. Hopefully this quality will be in there with the ability to use the lenses off the Canon system, various things like that. But whether that's going to be the case, I'm still finding out. I'm still learning the A7R II. As some of you have pointed out, there's times where some of the things that have been shown on the videos I've had to redo because it's a totally different setup to most of the cameras I've used. Actually, it's really the way I see it is, we go on in the camera world about soul and things like that, but the A7R II is a computer. I'm not finding it's got any soul yet, but at the same time, what an incredible computer. I mean, 42 megapixels, backlit sensor. Noise so far seems to be absolutely, it doesn't seem to exist at lower ISOs, and even higher ISOs are pretty amazing. So, I'm very happy with it, but I've just got to sort of, I guess, bond with it a little bit, if there's such a thing. But, so the A7R II, for a full frame camera, the reason why the A7 series is so popular and so much, has been said about it is because it was the first real full frame camera system to come out that truly is much smaller than anything else before it, in terms of an interchangeable full frame camera. Because when I say that, the first proper full frame fixed lens camera that I know of was this, the RX1R. Now when that first came out, it was an absolute fortune, and everybody pretty much slated it. I mean, the autofocus on this isn't amazing by any means. The manual focus, you can use the magnification and the focus peaking just like you can on this one, to be honest, on the A7R series. A lot of the Sonys have that now, and a lot of other cameras have it. Even the Fuji there, that has focus peaking as well. So the RX1R was mega expensive. It's a fixed 35mm focal length, so that's not for everybody. For me personally, it's brilliant. I absolutely love it. You've got a clicky aperture ring. That's on the lens, the Carl Zeiss lens, which is actually, it's known to be one of the best lenses just in existence, full stop, period. It has the most incredible rendering, the most incredible sharpness, and it also has the ability to focus up to down to 20 centimeters. So if you're going to use sort of like what is classed as the macro mode, it's not really macro, but if you're going to use the macro, then you've got between 0.2 and 0.35 meters, so 20 to 35 centimeters, you would use it in there, and then you'd flick it over to there. Anything if you're going to use it sort of from well, it overlaps a bit, but from 30 centimeters and above, you know, so depending on your subject. That's great if you're going to use that. I've, to be honest, not really made much use of it, but what it does mean is it does focus closer than the 35mm FE 2.8 that I currently have fitted to this A7R2. There is a difference in use. I did notice today I actually got to go out with the A7R2 again and take some pictures with it, and a couple of times I had to sort of step back a tiny bit. You know, sometimes you move just like a few centimeters and it makes all the difference. Suddenly everything comes into focus, you're able to focus on things that you weren't before. So it's not a real deal breaker at all for me, but it's, you know, if you're into close-up photography of any kind, then it may be something you need to take into account. This camera does have a built-in flash, which I so wish that the A7R2 had, because if I go sticking a flash on there, I only want something this big. It's just for a bit of fill light. Say you've got a you know, my girlfriend's with the sun behind her, or just want to get that type of shot, and you want to get that sort of halo effect behind her, and you just want to light the face up a little bit. Well, this camera does that because it's just got that tiny little flash, and it just works just enough. I also used it recently. I went to like a car racing event, and I was in the pits just taking pictures of the cars, just static cars, and sometimes the shadows were just very harsh because of the time of day in the car, and the flash just filled it out a little bit. So, you know, a flash is a handy thing to have sometimes, and like I said, if you put it on there, it's just going to make it bigger, and that's not the idea. We want smaller. That's what we're going for. So I'm sure there is a tiny little flash that I can get for that. I've not looked into it yet. Probably something similar to what you can get for the Fuji, but is it worth it? I don't know. I'm gonna sort of decide how things go with that. So this is the RX1R against the A7R2. So you can see there's about a centimetre in length. Height wise, as it stands now, and then I'll tell you something, I'll show you something in a minute. Yeah, I mean, it's quite a lot less tall than the A7R2 is quite tall, a lot taller than the RX1R. So, you know, that is much more compact until you look at it from there, and then suddenly they're very similar. If we do that, you know, there's what, a centimetre or two between them, so not huge amounts of difference, you know, in terms of that depth, and that therefore makes this less pocketable than, say, the X100T, which is only that deep, and that's with this attached. If I take this off, which is an adapter so you can put a lens hood on it and also like filters and things, now suddenly we have a 35mm camera that's, you know, both have the same focal length, but look how much less, or how much more shallow the X100T is. So that does make a difference. Now, another thing with the RX1R is you'll notice it's not a camera with a viewfinder. If you want to take a picture on this, then basically it's that way. You know, it's a typical, what people call the tourist look, isn't it? You know, that's how it's going to look. So how do you get around that? Well, when this first came out, at the price of about £2,800, Sony kindly offered you the opportunity to purchase extra a £300 electronic viewfinder, making your purchase even more crazily expensive. And the only thing is, though, it's a fantastic viewfinder. Some people have said, I've read reviews that said, oh, it could fall off. Well, do you know what? It's really solid. The only thing is, if you're rushing about and say you put it in a bag, and yeah, maybe it could come off, but for me personally, I would always take mega care of that because it costs so much money. But look what it does. It does that. Now, I find that really good because, you know, if you like that, that's fine. But say you need to get low, we don't always want to get on our knees and take that low down shot. So what you do is just flick it up there, and now you can look down. It's good if you want to look up at something underneath, or, you know, it just gives you that bit more maneuverability. and I do think it's an excellent viewfinder. I really do. Lens fantastic, viewfinder fantastic. The only thing that lets this camera down really is the autofocusing. It's nowhere near as fast as the A7R2, nowhere near. In fact, it's nowhere near as fast as quite a lot of other cameras. If you get good daylight conditions, then it's pretty much fine, it's acceptable. As soon as the light starts dropping off, it does tend to hunt around a lot, and it's a shame, because it is a really, you know, it's a very good camera, and it's just sometimes the stupid little things that cause the problems, you know. I mean, there we've got sort of pretty good light on that subject there, so it's fine. It's, you know, but it's still not as quick as the 35mm that's on the A7R2 right now. See if I can. Well, maybe it is. No, honestly, in general terms, it's not. I mean, I've not got the same focus points and everything, but I've tested these two thoroughly, and believe me, that is fast. It really does suit the phase detection and everything of the A7R2, so we're not going to take those tests there as anything scientific at all, but honestly, there is a difference. The next comparison would be, I guess, the Samsung NX3000. Now, this currently is fitted with a 10 to 24mm, sorry, 12 to 24mm wide-angle zoom lens. It comes with this, which is a 16 to 50. Now, in full frame terms, that works out, I think, something like 24 to 75 or so, and this works out to about 18 to 36. So if I just fit this lens here, so, and now we see that with a 24 to 70 equivalent lens, or 24 to 75, something like that, you know, it's pretty small, isn't it? The only thing that annoys me is that then this lens is massive in comparison, and that's the one I use the most. So it suddenly starts to make the body really big, but still, compared to a full frame DSLR, you know, we're still saving plenty of weight and space. So, you know, can't complain too much. It's a surprisingly good lens as well, this. It's only a kit lens, but it's, you know, it's, the whole camera's brilliant, to be honest. I've never had any complaints about that camera at all, and I've done some shots with a flash that I've been more than happy with. So, you know, very good little camera, not one that should be overlooked. Again, doesn't have a flash built in, but this does actually come with a little flash in the box, which is nice. So, you know, you just stick it on there, and it only sticks up a little bit, maybe sort of to about there. It's not high at all, and you know, at least you've then got a flash, so that's great. Comparison size, I mean, we've got a full zoom on here, and it's still smaller than the A7R2, but don't forget it is APS-C size, so it's going to be smaller. There we go, and if we look at it like that, you know, so there's a lot less height to it. It's a very good camera, and just because it's Samsung doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's got 20 megapixel sensor. Again, the only thing is focusing. It's not brilliant, but it does have a flippy uppy screen that goes into full selfie mode, should you wish for it. And you can see there it's actually turned it on. If I was to wink at it now, believe it or not, it will actually take a picture. So, gimmick, I don't know, I think so. But at the same time, a great camera. You know, takes good images, good dynamic range on the sensor. There's a new version of it now, but there's also the higher end range of this NX series is, it'll be, so like this is NX and then 4 numbers, 3000. You get NX and 3 digits, which is, I think they did a 300 and now there's a 500, and the 500 actually has a 28 megapixel sensor. So, you know, a really great alternative if you can't stretch to something like an A7R2. There'd be, you know, some fantastic results to be had, phase detection, everything. So, but even with the 20 megapixel NX3000, still an absolutely incredible camera. So, highly recommend it. Next one the teeny tiny little Ricoh GR. Another one that punches above its weight. I mean, it's a small camera, but what's great about these is the menus. They go on forever, but they're logically laid out, and you have so many different options with these cameras. It's ridiculous. So you know, you've even got snap focus, where it totally turns the focus off and allows you a set distance of 1 meter, 1.5 meters, 2 meters, and it's just for street photography. This is where this camera sort of excels. If you're just walking around and you just want to take those grab shots, it makes no noise and it looks totally inconspicuous because it's a tiny little black camera, and you can totally get away with looking like a tourist. You know, it doesn't look like it would produce any images that would be of usable quality, so you'll get into places where they're not too happy to accept cameras. It's a real Q camera. You know, it's you're not going to know what that can do unless you know about cameras. And this is the version 3. Like I said before, this has a small sensor but still very good quality. You can get an adapter for it because the full frame equivalent focal length is 28mm, and then it's f1.9 aperture. You can get an adapter which they're second hand, they're not too expensive now. It takes it down to a 21mm equivalent, and you know, so it's actually pretty clever. The only thing is the 21mm adapter comes out to about here and suddenly you have a big camera again, so it kind of defies the purpose of using that. But a great camera, and you know, certainly something that a lot of people should consider more with the Ricoh range. Let's look at the X100T. I've done that, I think, have I? Yeah, I've done that, haven't I? We've got the Canon 6D. Currently it's got a massive lens on it, but in terms of body, you know, it's actually very similar in size to the Canon 7D, which I have here. So therefore, if we compare the 7D with a 40mm pancake lens to the A7R with a 35mm lens, we get, in terms of depth, similarities. But in terms of height, no similarities, and it's longer as well, so just everything is bigger. You know, as we'd expect, it's a DSLR at the end of the day, it's going to be, but you have this nice little window here. I did say in one of my other videos, the A7R II isn't a pro camera, and a few of you commented saying just because it has face detection and things like that, it's not you know, it doesn't mean it's not a pro camera. Well, I think it got taken out of context a bit. Face detection is a fantastic thing. It's really, really good. If you're taking portraits, or you're doing street photography, or just anything to do with people, or even it seems to recognise pets as well. You know, it's an amazing thing. But the handling on something like a 7D, which is it's not classed as a pro DSLR, but it's close. You know, I mean, it's only one range off the pro line really, and it does so many things so well, the 7D and the 6D as well. You know, for me, a pro camera is about handling, and it's about where the buttons are, how quickly I can access things. The menu system on the Sony I struggle with. If you bring up the menu on the Sony, there's still picture items mixed with video items mixed with, it just doesn't, like, you know, you don't have a video menu and then a stills picture menu, which most cameras would have. They just seem to have sort of got a piece of paper out, listed a load of things and thought, we'll put this here, put that there, this here. It's not particularly in order that I would expect. It's not a logical order. And that's why, that was my meaning in terms of the camera as a whole. It's an incredible camera. The final result, the images are so high end. You know, the quality, the sharpness, the noise, everything is absolutely incredible. But when it comes to is it a DSLR beta, it depends on what you're using your camera for, I suppose. But for me, you know, this is just an amazing camera for going out and about, maybe on holiday, and you know you want to take several lenses with you, or you want to go and do a landscape shoot, you know, as long as you don't need that quick everything, find the menu, find this in the menu, because I'm getting used to this camera. I will get used to it. I will start to know where things are, but I will also struggle, I'm sure, even in a year's time with this camera, to find that one particular option that I need at that point in time. You have got custom buttons, and that's great, you know, and those will help, but there is only a few of those, and you've then got to remember where those are. So, you know, but I am not calling this camera, I'm not knocking it in any way, shape or form, because it is an amazing camera. The X100T is also an amazing camera for street shooting, incredible, and it's just, this has Fuji are well known for their for their JPEGs. So when you take a picture with this, the JPEG would obviously look different to this anyway, but these are processed in camera very differently to how that would process the JPEGs, just entirely. The colours, the sharpness, absolutely everything. You can quite often, I've heard of a few pro photographers that aren't paid by Fuji, because there's plenty out there that are paid by Fuji. I've heard of plenty that have stopped editing their photos because they've got all the settings right in the camera. They've been able to totally choose their own profiles, what they like, taking a picture, everything's right, JPEG out to, you know, magazines, whatever, fine, because they're clever. They're a very good camera. It's a 16 megapixel sensor. Is that a problem in 2015? I don't think so. It's an amazing camera, and to a degree probably one of the best cameras here, but I wanted to try this to hopefully get myself down to less cameras. And the thing that I will miss the most on the Fuji, I'll tell you now, is first of all, you've got the nice dial there, just like on a Leica. I've had Leicas in the past and it's been great having that, where you can just quickly adjust to 250 a second, boom, done. Great, okay, so that's one really good thing. The other thing as well, I thought would be a gimmick. It's got a flash as well, by the way. I thought would be a gimmick. It has a picture profile called Classic Chrome, and it's to replicate in digital form what people used to use years ago, I guess, with film, which would be something like, I think it was Kodachrome, and so it's a Kodak film, and it's like an emulation of it. So it has a very unique look to it, and it looks amazing. I love the way it comes out, and so far I haven't found any other profiles within Lightroom or any other cameras that get close to that colour scheme. You could sit there for hours trying to edit one photo and get it as close as possible, but this does it for you. And then the raw file, you go to Adobe, down to the bottom into the profiles, and you have the raw file profiles that you would have got in JPEG, so Classic Chrome and Astia and Velvia and all these different, it just makes sense. It's very, very a very nice end result, and that's what I like about this camera. There's no way I could ever knock the Fuji X100T. It is fantastic. You can't have that Classic Chrome on the X100S, but if you're not bothered about Classic Chrome, X100S is also an absolutely fantastic camera. You know, so the whole range, even the X100, I mean, that's a 12 megapixel sensor, but it's got an absolute following, that camera, because people say that the original 12 megapixel sensor produces better quality images or more appealing images than the current sensor, which is a 16 megapixel sensor, because I'm not going to go into that, but there's various differences between the two. So but yeah, so here's a comparison to sort of several cameras, my thoughts on them, and you know, hopefully, you know, I've seen videos like this that from other photographers where it's maybe a camera I've not even known about or I've not thought about until I've seen the video, and then I've thought, actually that sounds pretty cool, I might look into that, you know. And that it's more of a video in regards to sort of giving you hopefully an overview of what's out there in terms of these sorts of range of cameras. There's obviously plenty of others out there, but hopefully this is something for you. So I hope you enjoy the video. I know I've gone on for 25 minutes, so I hope you enjoyed your cup of tea or coffee while you're watching it. You know, keep commenting. I'm not a professional YouTuber. I'm just doing this for a bit of fun, and hopefully it gives some people some enjoyment. If you want to leave comments, that's great, and please subscribe, because I will be putting more videos out as much as I can. I'll try and do some more on the A7Rii. I've got some new images to show, including one massive panoramic image that I'm trying to sort of edit at the moment. And yeah, so comment, subscribe, thumbs up, and I'll see you soon.